Hey there. Let me ask you something that might surprise you. What if fear isn't your enemy? What if fear is an invitation? Now, hear me out here. If you're anything like the hundreds of people that I've talked with, coached, pastored, counseled over the years, you've probably prayed some sort of version of these prayers. God, why can't I change? Why can't I do things differently? God, I do not want to feel like this anymore. Why am I still struggling with self-doubt? Now, I've been there too, and today I want to offer you a different lens, one that is biblical, scientific, and yet still deeply spiritual. And just maybe it's going to completely shift the way that you relate to fear. Now, my name's Tracey. I am one half of Coach Aligned. I'm a qualified counsellor, coach, and yes, I'm a recovering control freak. And I just want to welcome you to this space, Coach Aligned. And this is where we have really honest, upfront coaching conversations about what it means to really live fully alive, living aligned with your deepest desires and God's divine purpose. Now, let me give you a little bit of context for this series because I actually had 4 other videos all set and ready to go. But I'd been having so many conversations lately that kept circling back to that idea of self-sabotage. I did a couple of videos recently around self-sabotage. Recently, while I was spending a few days in Bali with my friend Gina, we got really honest about fear and our relationship with it, especially what it looks like for people like us, people of faith. I shared with her how for years I delayed making really meaningful changes to my health, not because I didn't care about it, but because I just kept failing. And over time, that failure started to feel personal, like a character flaw, like I wasn't disciplined enough. But here's what I've come to realize, and this is the sneaky thing about self-sabotage, is that self-sabotage is fear in disguise. It doesn't always show up in like full-blown panic or something really dramatic. It often looks like distraction or delay, procrastination, or shrinking back instead of stepping forward. But this isn't a let's just push through it pep talk. This is an invitation into a new conversation, one where fear, when rightly understood, can actually become a teacher, a trigger for transformation, and yes, maybe even a friend. Now, I did say that Coach Aligned isn't a Bible study, and that's true. But I do want to lay a bit of a biblical foundation because so many of us have these unconscious beliefs about fear that we're not even aware of and that don't come from God or from Scripture. Because here's what Scripture shows us clearly. The Bible doesn't say never feel fear. What it teaches is how to respond to fear, how to recognize the kind that will draw us closer to God, to our Creator, to our divine purpose, and then the kind that distance us from God, from our divine purpose. So there's such a thing as healthy fear. It's often referred to as holy fear or reverence. And then there's the kind of fear that limits, paralyzes, and just keeps us playing really small, the small game. Over the next few videos, we'll explore that distinction deeply, blending biblical wisdom, coaching tools, and neuroscience. I'll be pulling from both my clinical experience and my personal therapeutic toolkit. And here's why this conversation is so important. Most people aren't stuck because they're lazy or spiritually immature. They're stuck because nobody has taught them how to work with fear spiritually and physiologically. So we stay busy trying to manage fear and trying to pray it away or pretend that it's just not there at all. And that's just not good. That's not healthy. And it definitely doesn't lead to the sort of transformation that I know if you're here, you are hungry for. What it leads to is burnout, shame, and this sense of disconnection from people and disconnection from purpose. And I believe that God is inviting us into something so much better. A season where we can stop being at war with fear and start learning about how to walk through it with a very clear sense of eternal purpose. So here's what I find amazing. In both Hebrew and Greek, the biblical words for fear include a range of meanings from reverent awe through to terror and dread. And at the same time, your nervous system is doing its job when you feel fear. The same God that formed you in your mother's womb also designed your amygdala, your sympathetic nervous system, your fight-flight response. You're not broken. You're built for it. But you were never meant to be ruled by fear, contained by fear. And that's why over and over Scripture says, do not fear. I am with you. He's not scolding us. He's re-anchoring us, showing us how to regulate, respond, and recenter in His presence and purpose. So here's what is ahead of you. It's a 4-part journey. The first video is going to look at the 2 faces of fear, how to recognize the difference between healthy fear and harmful fear, and how both show up in Scripture and in your nervous system. The second video, faith and the fight-flight response, what's actually happening in your brain and your body when you're afraid, and how spiritual practices can literally help you reset. And then in the third video, what to do when you feel afraid. Practical, grounded tools that help you shift from panic to peace. I'm working now on a little freebie of some sort that will help you with that. The fourth video is walking boldly even when you're scared. These are going to be real strategies, real stories of what it looks like to move forward even when fear hasn't fully left the room. So if you're ready to stop avoiding fear and start understanding it, if you're ready to move with God through your fear instead of being held hostage by it, you're absolutely in the right place. So be sure to subscribe, hit the bell. Maybe you want to invite a friend to join you over the next 4 videos. I do try to do 2 a week. It's really helpful if you subscribe just with the functionality of YouTube. If you haven't already, download the Purpose Guide. It's full of great reflective questions that will help you uncover where you're feeling stuck and shift into grace by understanding your purpose. I'd also really appreciate it if you would drop a comment below and let me know, is this even helpful? What's resonated with you? And what would you love us to explore more deeply? And remember, the next video we're diving into is the 2 faces of fear, and you don't want to miss it. I'll just be adding layer upon layer. So let's make fear your friend. Not by minimalizing it, but by reframing it through the lens of God's presence and truth. You're actually a lot braver than you think you are, and you're doing a lot better than you think you are, and you're not walking this journey alone. We'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Till then, bye.